What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Crissy Pyfer, and I'm back this week with another amazing suburban warrior here to share her expertise with us. I'm really excited about this conversation today because we are going to talk about something that I feel like is all over social media. It's what all of us women in midlife are talking about, and that is longevity and really what we can do to not just increase our lifespan, but really increase our health span. So first, I want to remind you all to go to suburbanwarriorpodcast.com and be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter, because that is where you can get downloaded right in your email inbox once a week all of the amazing top points from the podcast this week. So let me introduce to you Dr. Yi Song. She grew up in Beijing, China. She came from a family of 17 generations practicing Chinese medicine and Western medicine. She came to the United States 28 years ago to study pathology at Brown University. After observing the shortcomings of symptom-focused treatments, Dr. Song returned to her roots to focus on true regenerative healing, addressing disease at its source. She's had a holistic clinic in Boston since 2004, and in 2018, she founded the Regenerative Retreat in Medellin, Colombia. Her introduction to stem cell therapy in 2020 was marked by her mother's successful treatment and subsequent independence at age 81. Dr. Song believes that stem cell therapy aligns with holistic principles and is the author of Regeneration Effect, Sacred Wisdom for Staying Young. Her vision is to combine stem cell therapy, traditional Chinese medicine, and anti-aging treatments to help people live in a long, high-quality life. She offers advanced stem cell treatments at Regenerative Retreat in Colombia, not available in the U.S. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Song.
I'm so happy to be here, Crissy.
Thank you. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Zenergy.
Zenergy. Thank you. Well, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited for our conversation today because listen, I feel like women in midlife, we are talking not just about how we can feel better for today, but what do we need to do today to feel better 25, 30 years from now. And I think it's for the first time in our lives that we are really thinking that way and having this perspective. And I think we're really fortunate that we have, longevity medicine, regenerative medicine, functional medicine, all of these things that we can do now that will help us later in life. I mean, the conversation has really been going on for a while, as you know, because you have been at the forefront of it. But I feel like it's just becoming a part of the masses. So thank you for being here. I'm really excited to get into the conversation. So first, tell us a little bit more about you and how you became so passionate about regenerative medicine.
So I was always interested in health and longevity, even when I started my practice in Boston 20 years ago. That's why my domain, my URL for my Boston clinic actually is called Your Health and Longevity. So even back then, I wanted to educate people about early prevention, about treating the root cause of the condition, not waiting until the symptoms arise to treat the imbalance in the body. And that's how you can achieve health and longevity. So, and luckily, within the past 6 years, I was introduced into a stem cell lab in Colombia where I already had the Zenergy retreat. So that's how I started to realize the stem cell treatments are really an enhancement to whatever other things you need to do in your life for your health and longevity. So to achieve the maximum health span for anybody, everybody has their own unique body constitution. So you need to address your own body particularly, not just following what influencers or other people are saying on internet. You have to recognize your body type. And then you have to design a protocol, particular designed addressing your body type. Then you also need to do the protocol you find that's suitable for your body consistently. It's not like something you just do for a month, then it works as a magic forever. So that's what I want people to understand. That's why I want to write the book, do the podcast, and then to teach people through my clinical experience. That's why I am here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it sounds like early on you realized sort of what I think a lot of people are still realizing today, that unfortunately our traditional healthcare, Western medicine, is treat the symptom type of medicine, which, we're realizing that it doesn't necessarily work because of
Exactly.
course if you have something, some type of acute condition, emergency care, trauma care, like yes, but when you're just treating a symptom, you're never really getting to root cause, and a lot of times you're just chasing symptoms. And then you're creating other health issues by treating that symptom with whatever the treatment may be, whether it be a pharmaceutical or something that you're doing to treat that symptom, but then it's causing all these other side effects that are then more symptoms that need to be treated. So, and especially as we age, I think we're seeing this so much in our elderly population, of people in their 70s and 80s. They're on just, lined up their prescription medicines, but they're causing so many side effects that it's just really hard to ever treat a root cause at that point, because you don't really even know what's going on because of all the prescription medicines that they're on. So I think that especially for women in midlife, in this perimenopause, menopausal journey, we're really trying to think now, okay, so what is it that we can do now that we can do for ourselves to start feeling better later? So let me ask you this. So obviously you're doing this revolutionary stem cell therapy in Colombia. What about it? First of all, I want to understand, what is stem cell therapy and what are you doing?
So
give us some details.
People who have seen or heard of stem cells on internet, a lot of times they don't really understand there are many different types of stem cells, and also stem cell treatments can also use different types of stem cells, and that also can give you different results depending on what age you're at and what kind of health condition you're at. And also stem cell treatment is now just it doesn't equal to regenerative medicine, or it doesn't equal to longevity medicine, because as we know, in blue zone, where people can live to 100 years old without any medication, without any advanced intervention, it's because they live a simple life and then they are happy. So actually, I think that's the most important thing in life. If you really want to help your health and longevity, that's the number one thing you need to think about to address.
I love that. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Love and community and finding joy in the everyday, right?
Yes,
Connection.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then, of course, our body, everybody ages. There's no magic pill or fountain of youth for your body to reverse aging or even growing younger, or like some other people who are trying to do right now, to live to 180 years old or do not die, which is, I don't think it's possible, and also it's against nature. And in Chinese medicine, we always talk about we need to follow the natural rhythm. So aging is the natural process. Everything has beginning and has end. But what we can do in our life is to make aging joyful and powerful, so that we don't suffer from aging-related degenerative conditions. So when we are in our 70s, 80s, 90s, or even 100s, we can still do things instead of sitting in wheelchair waiting for the end of the day. So that's why I want to teach people how they can improve that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I mean, isn't that what we all want to do? We want to have the most out of our life each day and be able to live our life to the fullest each day until we can't anymore, right? And I feel like especially in America, we have a lot of people that are aging that are, again, just sitting, like you said, waiting for the day to go by. And that is not what we want for our lives. We want quality care and also feel as vibrant as we can till the end. So, okay, so tell me why is stem cell therapy illegal in the United States? Quote unquote
So the
illegal.
reason
There's
for
a lot
that,
of
I
things
think, yeah, there are multiple reasons. I think
Right.
one reason is because the particular type of stem cells we use is from the umbilical cord. And then there
Okay.
are some other clinics in the United States, they offer doing stem cell treatment using your own bone marrow or getting the SVF called stroma vascular fraction, which is from your fatty tissue. So they do liposuction from your belly to obtain mesenchymal stem cells. So when you do, say, bone marrow transplant from your bone marrow using the mesenchymal stem cells, or from the lipid, the fatty tissue in your body to obtain SVF, those, even though it's now theoretically approved by FDA, but because it uses your own body's tissue, so it's more like a tissue transplant. So that's why it is kind of legal in the United States. However, the procedure itself is not approved to treat any kind of conditions. So then we use umbilical cord stem cells. So that comes from the umbilical cord that after a healthy birth of babies, the umbilical cord most times are medical waste, because unless the parents they decide they want to save the baby's umbilical cord in the cord bank for future use in case the baby has some kind of conditions, or if you sign a paper with the cord bank saying you want to donate your baby's umbilical cord, all the other umbilical cords are medical waste. However, the umbilical cord itself has a lot of nutrients and also connected tissue, plus the mesenchymal stem cells in Wharton's jelly in the umbilical cord. So for that particular ingredient we use, because it's a natural ingredient, so it's very difficult for the pharmaceutical company to patent. That's why it doesn't have a lot of incentive for the big pharmaceutical companies to study that and then try to make it available to the general publication, the general public through the FDA approval. So for most big pharmaceutical companies, they're more interested in developing induced pluripotent stem cells from your own body's skin or certain cell types. They induce them to make them become stem cells. And then that actually has some places in treating different neurological conditions or even genetic conditions. So the pharmaceutical company, they are more interested in investing in that type of stem cells instead of the umbilical cord stem cells. And then on the other hand, I find through the 5 years of using stem cells, including myself, my mom, and also many other patients who got stem cell treatment from me and from stem cell therapy experts where I operate, they actually have very, very good results for a lot of joint conditions. So think about, there are also all these companies selling artificial joints to people, or even people trying to sell you steroid injection or some other various different kinds of therapies to treat joint problems, which are very common to people with aging conditions. Then there's no incentive for them to advocate this type of treatment, because a lot of times people only need this type of treatment if they do it early enough, or even like when they have mid-grade osteoarthritis, they can do it for one time and they don't need to do this treatment for the next 3 to 5 years. So what is the incentive for all these other industries or clinics to use this type of treatment if they cannot make a lot of profit out of it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't know how much the general public realizes how much pharmaceuticals drive our modern medicine, because again, like you said, if they can't make a profit, they're not going to put the money into studying it. And it's really the same issue going on with the landscape of peptides and, that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. And that conversation has been, I think, happening more and more, and people may be understanding that, obviously the pharmaceutical companies need to have incentive behind, the reason why they're doing what they're doing. But But tell me, so what type of conditions are you treating for with the stem cell therapy?
So we mostly, I would say 50% to 60% of people seeking treatment from us, they have some kind of joint issue or
Okay.
muscle condition. So they may have multiple injuries in the past and they cannot resolve with traditional steroid injection, or they basically have osteoarthritis of knee, hip, shoulder that they already ran out of options, and then they don't want to do joint replacement. Or some people, they already had one joint replacement and they felt the joint replacement was really not a pleasant procedure. And after joint replacement, sometimes a lot of people would still have a lot of pain due to various reasons. For example, if the joint was not done correctly, the space between the artificial joint and your own socket was like not angled correctly. So many people I've seen after joint replacement, they still have a lot of pain or other issues. So then some people, they decided they don't want to do another joint replacement for the other joint they started feeling pain with, then they start seeking some alternative treatment. So that's like about 50 to 60% of people. And then we also have people, another 20 to 30% are people with Parkinson's. Okay. And for some reason, people with Parkinson's, they read a lot of things online saying stem cells can help Parkinson's. Yes, it's true. However, that requires more than one treatment for most people, because a lot of people looking into treatments, they are already in more severe stage with a lot of neurological symptoms. And then some people with Alzheimer's, they were also looking to that, but it's now very common because, again, a lot of people, when they're looking into this type of treatment, they're already in advanced stage. And then we have the other 20%, mostly people with autoimmune conditions, because these type of stem cells really can regulate immune system very well. So that's why people with autoimmune, like multiple sclerosis, like Sjogren's, Hashimoto's, and also even some rare conditions like we don't even hear about a lot, they will start looking into these type of treatments.
And what does this type of treatment involve? Like, how long is it? Is it painful? Tell me a little bit about the actual procedure itself.
So the actual procedure is very simple. It's like for some people who are just looking into health and longevity without a lot of issues or just some minor joint problem, you would do intravenous infusion. And the intravenous infusion, just like you do any IV drip of vitamin or NAD or other things, it takes about 30 minutes to go through the whole bag of the stem cells, and it's relatively pain-free, and you can just get up and go afterwards. I have not seen any people with very severe reaction after the IV, and so it's very simple. And the joint injection, the injection itself is very quick too. It takes about 10 minutes for most joint injections, unless you're doing spinal injection, which is more complicated. So the spinal injection has to be done just like you do any epidural injection, that type of thing. You need to be done in a operation room so that it's very sterile. You don't want to introduce any infection, bacteria into the spine, which is very bad. And if any of your listeners who heard about some bad cases recently, actually there's an investigational journalist called Scott Carney. He actually started exposing a clinic in Mexico that made several celebrities having infections from his stem cell injection. So that is not something we do. We really follow very strict sterile conditions. So So that would be some more complicated procedure you want to do. But most people, they do simple joint injection, intravenous IV. You can even do inhaler to the nebulizer to help lung conditions, fibrosis of lung or any COPD. You can do intranasal application for neurological conditions in conjunction with intravenous infusion, and you can do facial treatment, which I do a lot on myself to help the skin. And I think maybe if your listeners are more women going through menopause, midlife, then that's also a lot of women who are interested in, because they want to look young for a longer period of time, for as long as possible, and without doing any artificial Botox, fillers, facelifts. These things I'm totally not interested in. But, you know, if some people they're interested in doing that, it's their choice, right?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, to think that you can use stem cells in place of things like a Botox or filler or that sort of thing, you know, that's really revolutionary because, and, you know, I think people would feel so much more comfortable because, like you said, it is natural. So it's something that, you know, you're kind of putting human biology back on human biology.
Yes.
And, you know, not introducing something that's synthetic or, you know, filler that can move and cause, you know, different things. So
yeah,
I think a lot of women would be very interested in that.
Long-term use of Botox and fillers sometimes can distort your facial structure, right? Over time, if you do it for the past 20, 30 years, you can see a lot of celebrities who have been doing so many plastic procedures, then their face look weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really, do you see a future where this will be available in the United States? Because right now you're doing this out of Colombia. So, you know, which, you know, people travel all the time to get procedures done. But do you see, I know you also have the clinic in Boston. Do you see a future in the near future, I should say, where this could become available?
So actually for some facial procedures we can do in the United States. And even most recently, I also went to a conference purely about stem cell treatment, regenerative medicine in Los Angeles. And that conference was organized by some surgeons who maybe 15 years ago, they started doing the fatty tissue mesenchymal stem cells, and they mostly use that for treatments. But then in the conference, they also have other cutting edge technologies, products. So I came across this particular product called Clotho. And Clotho actually has been something talked about a lot by biohackers because Clotho gene is something that found in animal and human studies that can have a lot of anti-aging effects for face, for skin, hair, and even internal body function for anti-aging and longevity purpose. So there's this company in San Francisco that they produced some kind of Clotho serum. And then you can use it in conjunction with microneedling. And also if you want to add exosomes or stem cells. I'm still experimenting it because I only got their product about 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to try it on my face first. So anything I advocate people doing for health and longevity, most times, 99% of products I tell people to try, I have tried myself. So I'm now trying to tell people something like, you know, just follow this influencer or something like that. And also I try to teach people, you know, you really don't need to spend $20,000, $30,000 to have very good health and longevity, right? Yeah. You know, there are many, many things. If you don't just follow the influencers thinking that's the best, then you just follow the science, follow the evidence, then you will find the best products for the best price. And also that it will do the right thing for your body. So it's not like you just do the most expensive treatment that will give you the best lifespan and health span. That's not true.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I do think it can be quite exhausting, trying to follow the influencers and trying to follow what people are saying online, because a lot of times people have very conflicting opinions. And, again, I really subscribe to the mantra of, what's best for your body. And, you have to really be realistic about what's going to work for you, because just because something's working for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So I'm curious, because you have been in this longevity space for so long, and now, I'm sure you're seeing such an influx of influencers and new ideas and, the whole just like regenerative, like bro wellness, like all this whole world, right, of that has come up. What is like maybe one of the things that you think that people are saying like, oh my gosh, this is such a must do, or you have to do this, that you think is really just not worth it?
Well, I would say a lot of supplements sold online, promoted by influencers, are really not, because it's very difficult to tell what's inside, what they're selling. And I'm very skeptical about a lot of things. And again,
as you should be.
And I always do my own research and try to find out the ingredient. Sometimes, people tell you, oh, this is a proprietary formulation, and they don't even tell you what's in it, right? So that's a little bit suspicious.
Absolutely.
And also, if you, like I mentioned, Scott Carney, the investigational journalist recently, he actually exposed a lot of supplements so promoted by influencers, including Tony Robbins and other people. And they, think about all these influencers. Actually, when they promote something, they get paid for it, right?
Of course.
So then some people, they got free treatment, they got free products. That's why they promote it. So what you're paying into the high price is now the product itself, is actually the marketing and all the influencers' fee. So that's why sometimes if you can find out the scientific base of whatever products, then sometimes the ingredients, you can actually get it very cheap for yourself. And then you just get the benefits from the real ingredients instead of paying for hundreds of dollars for something that's only worth $50 product. Then I think that's the best way to go. And I really believe to achieve the health and longevity, you don't need to be really wealthy. You can actually achieve that within your budget, within your reach.
Yeah, no, I think that is such a valid and very important point. I recommend supplements to clients all the time, but there's, a handful of brands that I recommend that are third-party tested, that have been on the market for a long time. Even my husband still to this day, he'll send me like a link from something that he saw on TikTok or Instagram and be like, oh, do you think I should start taking this? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, how have you not learned by now that like, just because it says it's going to do XYZ, it doesn't mean that it's going to do XYZ. And we have no idea where this is sourced from. We have no idea what's in it. Like, it is just not smart. I think supplements, you have to be really, really knowledgeable about where the supplements are coming from, where they're sourced from. And, like you said, if you're going to spend money on a supplement, make sure it's something that is, worth putting in your body. So I think that is a very valid point. So you've been in, Chinese medicine for so long. You come from 17 generations, of Chinese and, Western medicine combined. What are some of the things that you see from Chinese medicine that, that we may not know about, that are just things that you kind of swear by that we should really be incorporating maybe into our lifestyles, into our treatment plans? What are some things?
Okay, so that I think that's about the 6 principles I talked in my book. So
Oh, great. Okay.
yeah, so the 6 principle number 1 is you need to recognize your body's constitution, which is your unique body type. And a lot of times we just follow whatever other people tells us,
Yeah,
like including our doctors. And then, you do this,
exactly.
then we just do it because we think that they know the best, right? But in
Yes.
reality, they don't even look at your body type. They just give you a one size fits all prescription or some kind of advice, generic advice. So that's not what you want to do. You really want to understand your body's strengths and weakness, and then you address each aspect of your body accordingly. That's number 1 principle. And that is
Love
from
that.
the Chinese medicine ancient practice. And then the second one is early prevention. And we talked about early prevention even in the beginning of our conversation. But after 25 years, I still find most people, 90% of people, they don't think about early prevention. They only wait until their problems are so bad, just like what I mentioned, people seeking stem cell treatment because they already have one joint replaced and the other replacement they don't want to do, or they already have Parkinson's, certain bad neurological conditions. Then they think about, oh, maybe I need to do something different. But the early prevention part is really about you want to address your body's imbalance before even any symptoms arise. So like I'm doing a lot of anti-aging treatment myself. Of course, one thing is I like experimenting things, but the other thing is I also want to experiment things so that I can recommend my patients or people consulting with me. But then the other aspect is about I really want to prevent aging related conditions in my body in very early stage before I even have any symptoms. So I've done stem cell treatment multiple times, and I even do I'm going to try the clotho for the skin, for the hair, which is relatively inexpensive to do. So that's why I think it's a very good option if it really works, but I have to find out first.
Yeah.
So that's called early prevention. Like you don't want to wait until your face is already drooping, you already have so many wrinkles to think about, oh, maybe I need a facelift. You actually need to do things now when you have very minor wrinkle lines. That's when you can prevent the wrinkles from developing further, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then the third principle is treating the root cause, because Western medicine, most times they only treat the symptoms and they don't treat the root cause. Just like, when somebody who has, say, just recently, okay, this guy I just treated recently with stem cells, but before I treated him, we were talking about his symptoms. He already had this neuropathy symptom for the past 15 years, and it's getting worse. But then he's gone to 4 different neurologists, and then every single one of them told him he has idiopathic neuropathy. They don't even know why he has it. They just say, okay, idiopathic, they don't know why.
For listeners, that means they don't know what it is.
But in reality, actually, after I talked to him, he told me he also has had Sjogren's syndrome for the past 10 years. So,
oh my gosh.
And then from that, I kind of figured out actually his neuropathy is related to Sjogren. And then he said, all these neurologists he's been to, nobody told him that. And then because his neuropathy is related to Sjogren's, his root cause is actually in his dorsal root ganglia in the spine between L4 and S2. Not in the feet, because his main problem is he cannot feel his sensation, the position well. That's why he feels imbalanced. And then he doesn't have a lot of burnings, tingling, pains, and needle sensation like the typical neuropathy people have. So basically, what the Western medicine are doing to him is they're now treating the root cause of his problem. That's why he's not getting better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
So once you realize your body type, you do the early prevention, you treat the root cause, then that's when your body actually can have better balance in the early stage. Then when you achieve that, then you also need to start tend your body like a garden, not like a machine. So you don't look at your body just, oh, I have this part, then let's replace it. Or if I have this issue in my lung, let me just treat the lung with a medication. I have high cholesterol, let's just take statin to lower the cholesterol. So you need to treat your body like a garden. Then you have to realize the problem, a lot of issues arise because the garden is not irrigation system is blocked. So the garden is blocked. That's why certain part cannot flourish. But then certain part you have problem, it can be the problem coming from somewhere further away, not from just the area where you have symptoms. So I think nowadays a lot of functional medicine, they start talking about it. Because for example, it's also a trendy topic about your microbiome, the gut health related to your neurological condition, your brain, and a lot of other things in your life. It's not just your gut. So that's certain concept like irrigation system, right? So that's the fourth principle. Then the fifth principle is about you want to follow the natural rhythm in the nature. So that's goes back to what we also said, aging is inevitable, but we can slow down the aging related conditions. So we need to follow the natural rhythm, not just trying to swim against the current and then exhaust ourselves and then doing all these things thinking you're doing something good to your body. In reality, you're actually doing
Stressing
something that's not good for your body and not good for the longevity either. So that's the
creating
part.
More stress for your body.
Exactly. If you're so obsessed about certain things, like I cannot eat this, I cannot do this, I cannot do this, then you're actually adding stress to your body. And then the most killing factor for your health and longevity is stress.
Right, exactly. And I think that, again, we see so much of that, especially, I feel like, in the population of our listeners, the women in midlife who are already stressed because they're balancing so much in their life. And now before this whole menopause conversation came about, we didn't really have the information, but now we have the information, but now it's like information overload. And it's like, you got to get your 10,000 steps in. You got to eat, 150 grams of protein a day. Make sure you're eating enough fiber. You got to eat the rainbow. Do your red light therapy, cold plunge, sauna. I mean, the list just goes on. And it's like constant stress, as opposed to just maybe pick a couple things that work for you, find joy in doing them. Like you said, be one with nature, get out, get sunlight, get it early in the morning if you can, follow your circadian rhythm, eat foods that are whole foods that make you feel good and that bring you joy. I think getting back to sort of that frame of mind as opposed to, elimination diets and hardcore stress, because I think we are already so stressed out. So adding all of those things, which, listen, I went through a period of my life when that's what I thought I had to do in order to feel good. And it doesn't really help when you're stressing yourself out. It just causes so much more stress and rise of cortisol and adds to everything, and really sheer exhaustion.
Exactly. So then the last principle I talk about in the book also is from ancient longevity practice, is also you need to combine all the different modalities, treatments, particular suitable to your body type in the right proportion, and then do it consistently, and that's how you can achieve the optimal health. So it's not like you just do something for a few months and then do something else for another month, and then you never really have a strategic plan of what portion I need for this, what portion I need for that, and how long I need to stick to this plan to have the maximum benefit. So that's the sixth principle.
Wow, that's wonderful. And just going back to the first one, and you might talk about this in your book, but when you talked about like sort of understanding your own body's constitution, is there a certain way that people can learn, what their constitution is? How do we know exactly, besides just following how we feel, but like how do we know about our body's constitution and what's best for us?
So that part, you really need to seek out some help if you are not the expert in that. And it's not just about lab tests or DNA tests. Part of it has something to do with your genetic testing, because right now we can have so advanced genetic testing, and I'm very amazed with what they can find out without knowing who I am, because I did one last year, and some part of it about my emotion, about my circadian rhythm, about my digestion. It's really spot on from the genetic testing, and they didn't know who I am. They didn't know any symptoms. So that can help get the blueprint. And then you really, from the Chinese medicine point of view, you really need to consult some expert in that about what your body type, your organ interaction from birth, because everybody is born with certain strengths and weakness. So you want to find that out so that you can address them individually. So that's what I do when I try to tell people, you can have also, first you can have a 15-minute complimentary consultation with me, then we can talk. Then if you want more in-depth discussion, then we can also set up a paid consultation. Then I can, also tell you exactly what I think your body type is and what practices in health and longevity with modern technologies you can use to address your body type.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So if there were like one or two things that, or are there one or two things that you think can be really game changing for, especially for women in midlife, for them to start maybe thinking about adding into their, routine or something that they can do to really help increase their longevity, or, taking steps towards feeling better and health and longevity?
So I think for most women in their midlife, a lot of times they would start having sleeping problems, or they cannot get enough deep sleep. And even I myself, I experienced that. So,
Same.
That's why I talk from my own experience. So I never had a lot of sleeping issues when I was younger, and I always could fall asleep anytime, and I didn't have a lot of wake up issues or anything. But within the past 5 years, I really started noticing that I can be disturbed very easily by certain minor noise or some minor stress in my life, that in my thought, then I would wake up thinking about that. So what I have been doing to address that is, first I started soaking my feet with magnesium chloride at night before going to bed, which is a very ancient practice in China, culturally embedded in Chinese culture. Like my mom's generation, my grandparents' generation, they always soak their feet at night. But of course, they don't use magnesium chloride. But we have this technology now. We can obtain the magnesium chloride from Zachstein place in Europe, where they have this nice magnesium flake, and you can just put in your hot water soak. And also you can buy this $99 foot massager with the foot soak, and it also has massage on the bottom of the feet, which actually help promote the circulation before you go to bed, which is very important to help you have more restful sleep. So that's one thing.
That's sounds wonderful. And is that, how does that work? Is that is it sort of like a detox? Is it, just sort of drawing impurities and detoxing through your feet that helps you have a more restful night?
I think soaking the feet and also magnesium chloride, they definitely have some detox effect. And also if you use that type of machine, you can get from Amazon anywhere very easily. they actually have some reflexology property because they have these rollers on the bottom while you're soaking. It can massage the bottom of the feet. And in traditional Chinese medicine theory, the bottom of the feet, which especially the area right in the middle of the feet, the bottom of the feet, actually are related to kidney energy, related to sleep. So that's why if you do that, it really helps improve the whole body flow. And then, the feet are the part of your body that's furthest away from your heart. So if you can improve the circulation before you go to bed on the bottom of the feet, I think that also improves the whole circulation throughout your body to help you have better sleep.
Okay, great. I love that. Okay.
And it is proven in the scientific study that magnesium definitely has very calming effect on your nerve. So if you do the magnesium foot soak, they say the magnesium is very easily absorbed through the skin on your feet. So then that also can help balance your whole body for the sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then was there a second recommendation that you had?
So the second recommendation is hormone related. Okay. So everybody, going through midlife, we definitely have the hormone fluctuation, decline, right? So
absolutely.
So what I do is I actually try to use natural food ingredient to help my body adjust the hormone imbalance. I don't take any hormone replacement therapy. Of course, I don't have any bad menopausal related symptoms either. Okay. So I probably had a little tiny bit, maybe a few years ago, but so far I haven't had a lot of hot flashes type of thing. And I basically use I make my own soy milk. And that's also something some people, they say, oh, soy maybe stimulate breast cancer or something, which is not true. That again goes to, because when you have natural food, if you have isolated soy, I think that's really bad. But if you have the whole ingredient instead of isolated ingredient, so that's another thing I really talked about multiple times in my book called wholeness versus isolation. So that goes to the stem cell part too, because the stem cell, when you get it from the umbilical cord, it's like a wholesome, non-homogeneous ingredient. It has different populations and then also different ingredients mixed together naturally. Not like you artificially created in the lab or in the pharmaceutical company. So if you use wholeness from the nature, somehow it always has better effect on your body because our body is part of the nature. So if you have this kind of balanced ingredients to put in your body to adjust your body's balance and then chemical ingredients, then that always works better than using the isolated ingredients.
Yeah. So if someone was going to drink maybe like a little bit of like soy milk that didn't have fillers and stuff at night, is that what you mean?
I would say if, I don't really know about the commercially obtained soy milk, whether I think all of them have certain fillers. So it's actually very easy to do. You can just, again, buy something like $60 on Amazon called Nut Milk Maker, which is automatic. Yeah. And then you can buy organic soybean from this farm in Iowa that they sell directly to you. And you just put a few, a small cup of it into the machine, add water. You don't even need to soak it overnight. Then the machine can churn up the natural soy drink for you in 20 minutes. So this is something very easy to do. It doesn't require a lot of preparation or anything. And then the machine can also self-clean itself, so you don't even need to clean it a lot. It's not that dirty either. So
Yeah.
so that's something very simple to do. And if you don't have time to do it every day, like I don't even do it every day now, I just do it maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And I think it's a very good supplement to help women's estrogen level, the the imbalance, because there are 3 different types of estrogens. And the study shows that the natural ingredient in soy actually can act not just as supplement to your estrogen, but also it has some estrogen regulation aspect in it. So it can also inhibit some bad reaction of estrogen overreaction on your body's tissues, including breast.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, I think, such a great recommendation. And I have seen those nut milk makers turn up, because you can really do anything. You can do soy, almond,
Exactly.
cashew, and all you're doing is adding the whole ingredient along with water. And then all of a sudden, you have your very own homemade milk, without any fillers at all. Because
Exactly.
I think it is very difficult to find commercially, the retail milks that are on the market. There are a few that are like just 3 ingredients, but other than that, most of them have a lot of fillers that are and gums that are really not good for you. So that is such a great recommendation. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really feel like we covered so many just fabulous, interesting topics, and especially understanding a little bit more about stem cell therapy. I think more and more it is going to probably be part of the conversation, especially with longevity. And, I appreciate so much learning about what you're doing in Colombia. And I hope that someday, it will be more even widely available for people, in the United States. But thank you so much for giving us all of this fabulous information. And because it's really about being aware of what is possible. So many people are suffering with these conditions, and there are treatments possible. And I think that's what's really important for all of us to know. And, going back to your number one, like, we have got to be advocates for ourselves. We have to be well-informed consumers. And, we're not used to being well-informed consumers when it comes to medicine. We're used to just walking into the doctor's office, taking whatever they say to heart and as Bible or gospel, and then leaving. And I think, more and more we're understanding that that's just not how it is. And we all need to really be the CEOs of our own healthcare. So thank you for giving us all this fabulous information today.
I thank you for having me here. And I also would like to really have your listeners to try to explore the 6 principles. So one of the principles, tend the body as a garden. You can actually get the free ebook download from gift.regenerationeffect.com. So then that way you can, if you like that and then you want to read more, then you can also get the other 6 principles.
I love that. Well, we'll be sure to make sure we link that in the show notes so all of our listeners can find that and download that, and as well as your book. And tell my listeners where they can find you.
So they can go to stemcelltherapyexperts.com if they want to really look into in-depth discussion about stem cell treatments. And then they can go to regenerationeffect.com to look at the content about book, about the podcast I did with various people, talking about red light therapy, about genetic testing, and also many other things. And then you can also go to my podcast on stem cell talk and regeneration effect. So you can find me everywhere.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Song. Guys, thank you for listening and being here again this week, listening to Suburban Warrior Podcast. We'll be back next week with another amazing Suburban Warrior. In the meantime, be sure to follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Suburban Warrior. And don't forget to check out suburbanwarriorpodcast.com, where you can download your free From Pause to Power menopausal roadmap, as well as sign up for our weekly newsletter. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then.